There comes a moment in life when you realize something uncomfortable, something most people avoid admitting. The problem was never that the world didn't respect you enough. The problem was that you kept asking for respect instead of becoming someone who commands it. See, when you keep waiting for approval, when you keep adjusting your behavior just to be accepted, you slowly teach people a dangerous lesson, that your boundaries are flexible, your standards are negotiable, and your value depends on their mood. And the world learns fast, faster than you think. You don't lose respect overnight. You lose it in small moments. When you tolerate things you shouldn't. When you stay silent to keep the peace. When you delay your growth because comfort feels easier than courage. Every time you choose convenience over commitment, you tell the world exactly where to place you. And then one day, you look around and wonder why no one listens when you speak. Why your presence doesn't shift the room. Why your words feel lighter than they should. That's not bad luck. That's feedback. Respect is not something people give you out of kindness. It's a response, a reaction to how you live, how you move, how you show up when no one is watching. Strong people don't demand attention. Their consistency does the talking for them. The moment you stop begging for understanding, for validation, for permission, something changes. You start standing differently, speaking differently, choosing differently. And slowly, almost quietly, the world adjusts to you. This is not about becoming arrogant. It's about becoming solid, grounded, unshakable. Because when you fix yourself first, you no longer need to ask the world for respect. It finds you. Self-respect is not something you wake up with one morning feeling confident and unstoppable. It is something you build quietly, patiently, through the choices you make when nobody is clapping for you. Most people think respect comes from how loudly you speak or how strongly you defend yourself in front of others. But the truth is, real self-respect is shaped in private moments, in discipline that feels boring, uncomfortable, and often unrewarded at first. Every day you are voting for the kind of person you are becoming. When you wake up on time even when you don't feel like it, you are telling yourself that your goals matter. When you keep a promise you made to yourself, even a small one, you are reinforcing trust within your own mind. And trust is the foundation of self-respect. Without it, confidence becomes fragile, easily shaken by opinions, criticism, or rejection. People who constantly seek validation usually don't lack talent or potential. What they lack is consistency. They do the right thing only when someone is watching, only when praise is guaranteed. And over time, this creates an inner emptiness, because deep down, they know they are capable of more, but they keep negotiating with their comfort. That inner conflict slowly erodes self-respect. You start doubting your own words. You stop taking yourself seriously. And when that happens, the world follows your lead. Discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect in action. It is choosing long-term dignity over short-term relief. It is doing what needs to be done even when emotions are unstable. Anyone can feel motivated on a good day. Anyone can perform when conditions are perfect. But the person who shows up on the hard days, on the tired days, on the days when quitting would be easier, that person builds an unbreakable identity. When you lack discipline, you begin to outsource your worth. You look for reassurance in compliments, likes, messages, and attention. And the problem with validation is that it never stays. You always need more. One compliment becomes insufficient. One achievement feels empty. You start measuring yourself through other people's reactions. And that is the fastest way to lose control over your confidence. Self-respect grows when you can sit with discomfort without escaping it. When you don't numb your dissatisfaction with distractions. When you face your weaknesses honestly instead of justifying them. This doesn't mean being harsh with yourself. It means being truthful. It means acknowledging where you are without lying to yourself about where you should be. There is a powerful shift that happens when you stop asking, "Do they like me?" and start asking, "Do I respect the way I am living?" That question changes everything. Because once you respect your own effort, your own growth, your own standards, you no longer bend yourself to fit into spaces that require you to shrink. Daily discipline teaches you self-worth in a language words cannot. It tells you that you are reliable, that you can trust yourself under pressure, that your life is not ruled by moods, but guided by values. And when that belief settles in, something changes in the way you carry yourself. You don't rush to explain. You don't chase attention. You don't tolerate what drains you. People sense it. Not because you announce it, but because your energy becomes calm, steady, and clear. Your boundaries feel natural, not defensive. Your silence feels intentional, not insecure. This is why disciplined people don't need to beg for respect. Their lifestyle speaks before they do. When you repeatedly break promises to yourself, you weaken your inner authority. You hesitate before making decisions. You second-guess your instincts. But when you honor your commitments, even small ones, you strengthen that authority. You start trusting your judgment. You stop looking for permission. The world responds differently to people who move with certainty. Self-respect also means knowing when to walk away from conversations that drain you, from environments that keep you small, from habits that sabotage your growth. And walking away becomes easier when you have discipline, because you are no longer addicted to comfort or approval. You are anchored in purpose. Many people confuse confidence with loudness, but real confidence is quiet. It doesn't rush. It doesn't over-explain. It doesn't try to impress. It knows who it is because it has proven itself through action. That kind of confidence cannot be faked, and it cannot be taken away. If you want the world to treat you differently, you must first treat yourself differently, not in words, not in affirmations alone, but in behavior, in how you structure your days, in how you respond to resistance, in how you hold yourself accountable without excuses. The moment you choose discipline over validation, your priorities shift. You stop chasing attention and start building substance. You stop asking for recognition and start becoming undeniable. And slowly, without force, without begging, respect becomes a natural outcome of who you are becoming. Stop explaining yourself to people who benefit from your weakness. Because the moment you start justifying your choices, your boundaries begin to dissolve. Explanation feels harmless at first. It sounds polite. It sounds mature. It feels like clarity. But over time, it becomes a habit that quietly drains your power. Because not everyone asking for an explanation is genuinely trying to understand you. Some people are simply trying to measure how much access they still have to you. When someone benefits from your silence, your availability, your flexibility, or your self-doubt, they will always ask you to explain why you are changing, why you are saying no, why you are choosing yourself. Not because they care about your reasons, but because they are uncomfortable losing the version of you that was easy to control. And the more you explain, the more you hand them permission to debate your boundaries. You don't owe clarity to people who misuse it. You don't owe closure to people who thrived in your confusion. Yet many people keep explaining, hoping that if they just say it the right way, the other person will finally understand. But understanding is not always the goal. Compliance is. Weakness doesn't always look like fear. Sometimes it looks like over-communication. Like long messages. Like justifying your decisions repeatedly. Like softening your truth so others don't feel uncomfortable. And the tragedy is that while you are busy protecting their feelings, you slowly abandon your own. The strongest shift you can make is realizing that not everyone deserves access to your reasoning. Some people only need to know your decision. Not your process, not your struggle, not your emotional labor, just your decision. And when you start operating from that place, something powerful happens. Your words become fewer but heavier. Your presence becomes firmer. Your boundaries stop feeling like requests and start feeling like facts. People who respect you don't demand explanations. They may ask, but they don't push. They don't argue. They don't guilt you into changing your mind. They accept your no even when they don't like it. Anyone who insists on explanations is often revealing their entitlement to you, not their concern for you. There is a deep insecurity in feeling like you must be understood by everyone. Because the truth is, not everyone will understand you, and not everyone needs to. Growth often looks confusing to people who are comfortable staying the same. Your discipline will look cold to those who benefit from your chaos. Your boundaries will look selfish to those who lived off your generosity. And that's okay. When you stop explaining yourself, you reclaim time, energy, and emotional clarity. You stop rehearsing conversations in your head. You stop editing your truth. You stop shrinking your decisions so they sound more acceptable. And in that silence, you begin to hear yourself more clearly. Explaining becomes dangerous when it turns into a negotiation. When your no slowly becomes a maybe. When your boundary becomes flexible depending on how guilty you feel. That's when people learn that persistence will break you. That if they push long enough, you will bend. And once that pattern is established, respect disappears. You teach people how to treat you, not through words, but through what you tolerate. Every time you over-explain, you teach them that your decisions are unstable. Every time you justify your boundaries, you teach them that they are open for discussion. And every time you apologize for choosing yourself, you teach them that your needs come second. Strong people don't over-explain because they don't seek approval. They seek alignment. They know who they are and where they are going. They don't feel the need to convince others because their self-worth is not dependent on being liked or understood. This doesn't mean becoming rude or emotionally closed. It means being selective. It means recognizing that your energy is valuable and not everyone deserves access to it. Silence can be respectful, distance can be healthy. And clarity doesn't always require conversation. When you stop explaining yourself, you also stop giving people the power to manipulate your emotions. Because explanations create openings. They give people something to twist, challenge, or use against you later. But a calm, grounded decision leaves no room for debate. There is also freedom in letting people misunderstand you. It reveals who respects you and who only respected your compliance. It filters your circle naturally. Those who stay are aligned. Those who leave were attached to the version of you that no longer exists. You don't need to defend your growth. You don't need to justify your healing. You don't need to explain why you are protecting your peace. The people who matter will feel this shift and adjust. The ones who don't were never meant to walk with you beyond that point. And the more you practice this, the easier it becomes. You stop reacting. You stop overthinking. You stop carrying conversations that drain you. You become quieter, not because you have less to say, but because you have learned the power of saying less. The world treats you differently when you stop explaining yourself. Not because you become intimidating, but because you become grounded. Is a calm authority in someone who doesn't rush to justify their existence, who doesn't need permission to choose differently, who stands by their decisions without drama or apology. This is how respect begins to return. Not through arguments, not through explanations, but through consistency, through boundaries that don't move, through silence that speaks louder than words, through strength that doesn't announce itself but is felt. The moment you enter the room, your habits are speaking for you long before you open your mouth, and most of the time, they are saying more than you realize. People don't decide how to treat you based on what you promise or what you say you will do someday. They decide based on patterns, based on what you repeat, based on how you show up when there's no pressure and no reward. Every habit you keep is a message. When you are inconsistent, when you cancel plans, when you delay responsibilities, when you start strong and disappear quietly, you are teaching people that your words don't carry weight, not because you are a bad person, but because reliability is the currency of respect. And without it, even the kindest intentions lose their value. You might think people don't notice the small things, but they do. They notice when you always arrive late. They notice when you avoid difficult conversations. They notice when you say yes and then complain about it later. These behaviors may feel minor to you, but to the world, they are signals. Signals that say how much you value your time, your commitments, and yourself. The way you treat your own life sets the standard for how others treat you. If you rush through your days with no structure, no discipline, and no boundaries, people assume your time is flexible, your energy is available, your limits are negotiable. And once that assumption is made, it becomes very difficult to reverse without changing your habits first. Strong habits create quiet authority. When you are consistent, when you follow through, when you do what you say you will do, you don't need to demand respect. It develops naturally. People trust you. They listen when you speak. They hesitate before wasting your time. Because consistency builds credibility, and credibility builds respect. This is why confidence without discipline eventually collapses. You can speak boldly, dream big, and think positively, but if your habits don't support your words, people sense the gap. And gaps create doubt. Not just in others, but in you. You begin to feel like you are performing instead of living, saying the right things without becoming the right person. Your daily habits also determine how seriously you take yourself. When you skip what matters and prioritize what feels easy, you send a message inward that your growth is optional. Over time, that belief settles deep. You stop expecting more from yourself, and others follow your example. Habits don't need to be dramatic to be powerful. Waking up on time, finishing what you start, preparing instead of improvising every day, listening fully instead of being distracted. These small, repeated actions shape your identity. And identity is what people respond to, not motivation. There is a reason disciplined people don't chase attention. Their habits have already earned them credibility. They don't need to remind people of their value because it is visible in how they move, how they speak, and how they manage their responsibilities. Their life sends a clear message without effort. When your habits are chaotic, people feel it. Conversations feel uncertain. Plans feel unstable. Trust feels risky. But when your habits are steady, people relax around you. They know what to expect. And predictability in this sense is not boring. It is grounding. It makes you dependable. Your habits also protect your boundaries. When you have structure, it becomes easier to say no, easier to prioritize, easier to walk away from distractions. Without habits, everything feels urgent. Everyone feels entitled to your time. And that chaos makes you look accessible in the wrong ways. You don't need to announce your standards. You don't need to explain your values. Your habits reveal them naturally. How you spend your mornings, how you handle pressure, how you respond to discomfort. These moments speak louder than any speech you could give. Changing how people treat you starts with changing what you repeat daily. Not once, not occasionally, but consistently. When your habits align with the life you want, the world adjusts its behavior toward you without resistance. This is the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. If you don't like how you are being treated, look at what your habits are teaching others about you. Because respect doesn't come from demanding better behavior. It comes from becoming someone whose habits leave no confusion about their worth. Confidence doesn't appear when life becomes easy. It grows when excuses disappear. As long as you have a reason ready for why you didn't show up, why you delayed, why you avoided discomfort, confidence stays fragile. Because deep down you know you chose comfort over courage. And that awareness, even if you don't admit it, quietly weakens how you see yourself. Excuses are subtle. They don't always sound like lies. Sometimes they sound logical, reasonable, even responsible. You tell yourself you were tired, you were busy, the timing wasn't right, the conditions weren't perfect. And in isolation, each excuse feels harmless. But repeated over time, they build an identity that avoids accountability. And confidence cannot grow in a space where accountability is absent. Real confidence is rooted in evidence, not affirmations, not hype. Evidence. Proof that you can be trusted by yourself. And every time you remove an excuse and still act, you add to that evidence. You strengthen the relationship you have with yourself. You begin to believe your own words because you have seen yourself follow through. People often think confident individuals don't feel fear or doubt. That's not true. They feel it deeply. The difference is, they don't let those feelings decide their actions. They don't wait to feel ready. They don't wait for motivation to arrive. They move anyway. And with every movement, their confidence grows a little stronger. Excuses protect your ego in the moment, but damage your self-image in the long run. They help you avoid discomfort today, but steal belief from tomorrow. When you repeatedly excuse your behavior, you teach yourself that your standards are flexible, that effort is optional, that your word can be negotiated. And once that belief settles in, confidence begins to crumble. Confidence also suffers when you lie to yourself about your effort. When you say you tried, but you know you didn't. When you claim circumstances held you back, but you avoided the challenge. That inner dishonesty creates a quiet tension. You might look confident on the outside, but inside there is doubt. And doubt leaks through your posture, your tone, your decisions. Removing excuses doesn't mean being cruel to yourself. It means being honest. It means recognizing the difference between rest and avoidance, between patience and procrastination, between self-care and self-sabotage. That clarity is powerful. Because once you see clearly, you can no longer hide behind comfort. Confidence grows when you do hard things consistently. Not dramatic things, not heroic acts, but small, uncomfortable actions done daily. Speaking up when it's easier to stay silent. Starting even when you feel unprepared. Finishing even when enthusiasm fades. These moments shape how you see yourself. When excuses die, ownership is born. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop waiting for permission. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of timing or luck. And in that shift, confidence finds space to grow. Because you are no longer reacting to life. You are responding to it. People can sense when your confidence is earned. It feels steady, calm, grounded, not rushed, not defensive. Earned confidence doesn't need to prove itself. It doesn't seek validation. It doesn't overcompensate. It simply exists because it is built on action. The more excuses you remove, the stronger your inner voice becomes. You trust your decisions. You back yourself under pressure. You stop second-guessing every move. And that internal stability changes how others respond to you. They feel the certainty. They respect it. Every excuse you drop is a step toward self-belief. Every time you choose action over justification, you reinforce your strength. And over time, confidence stops being something you chase. It becomes a natural byproduct of how you live, how you act, and how honestly you face yourself. Fixing your inner chaos changes how the world responds to you, because people react less to what you say and more to the emotional state you carry into every room. Inner chaos is invisible, but its effects are loud. It shows up in hesitation, in mixed signals, in inconsistent energy, in the way your mood changes based on how others treat you. And when your inner world is unstable, the outer world mirrors that instability back to you. When you are internally scattered, you seek control externally. You want reassurance. You want clarity from others. You want people to behave in ways that make you feel safe. But the truth is, no amount of external order can compensate for internal disorder. Until you become grounded within yourself, the world will continue to feel unpredictable and unfair. Inner chaos often comes from unresolved emotions, from unmade decisions, from goals you keep postponing, from truths you avoid facing, and every unresolved thing occupies mental space. It drains energy, it creates tension. Even when you are smiling, even when things seem fine on the surface, people feel it. Because energy always speaks before words. This is why some people walk into a room and instantly command respect without saying much. It's not status, it's not volume, it's inner alignment. Their thoughts, actions, and values are not fighting each other. They are clear. And clarity is powerful. When your inner world is chaotic, your reactions become unpredictable. One comment affects you deeply. One delay frustrates you. One rejection shakes your confidence. You become reactive instead of responsive, and reactivity signals insecurity. It tells the world that you are easily influenced, easily unsettled, easily pulled out of balance. Fixing your inner chaos starts with responsibility. Not blame, responsibility. Owning your emotions instead of projecting them. Owning your choices instead of explaining them away. Owning your direction instead of drifting. This ownership creates stability, and stability creates presence. Presence is one of the most underrated forms of power. When you are present, you listen fully. You speak intentionally. You don't rush to fill silence. You don't overreact. And people feel safe around you. They trust you. They respect you. Not because you demand it, but because your calm creates confidence in others. Inner chaos also keeps you stuck in comparison. You look outside for reference because you don't trust your internal compass. You measure your worth through others' progress, their approval, their attention. And comparison multiplies chaos. It fragments your focus. It pulls you away from your own path. When you begin to fix your inner world, comparison loses its grip. You stop competing with everyone. You start competing with who you were yesterday. Your growth becomes personal, and that focus sharpens you. Clarity changes how you speak. You stop rambling. You stop over-explaining. You stop justifying your feelings. Your words become fewer but more precise. And precision commands respect. People listen more closely when you speak less but mean more. Fixing inner chaos also means setting internal boundaries. Not just with people, but with your own thoughts. You stop entertaining self-doubt unnecessarily. You stop replaying conversations. You stop mentally arguing with situations that are already over. You choose where your attention goes. And attention is power. When your attention is disciplined, your energy stabilizes. You don't feel drained by everything. You don't feel overwhelmed by small things. You move through life with intention instead of urgency. And urgency often feels weak, while intention feels strong. The world responds to internal order with external respect. Opportunities align more easily. Conversations feel smoother. Resistance decreases. Not because life becomes perfect, but because you are no longer fighting yourself. And when the inner battle ends, the outer battles lose intensity. People treat you differently when you are emotionally regulated. When you don't seek reactions, when you don't get pulled into unnecessary drama, when your responses are measured, not impulsive. Emotional regulation signals maturity, and maturity commands respect naturally. Fixing your inner chaos is not a one-time event. It's a daily practice. It's choosing reflection over reaction, discipline over distraction, truth over comfort. It's simplifying your life so your mind can breathe. And when your mind breathes, your presence expands. You stop chasing control over others and start mastering yourself. You stop needing validation and start trusting your process. You stop asking the world to change and begin changing how you show up in it. And that shift is subtle but profound. The world always responds to who you are being, not who you are trying to be. When your inner world is aligned, your outer world adjusts without resistance. People respect your time more. Your boundaries are tested less. Your voice carries weight. Fixing your inner chaos doesn't make you perfect. It makes you stable. And stability is rare. Stability is attractive. Stability is powerful. When you become internally grounded, you no longer need to ask the world to treat you better.